Hi there, Martin Popoff here. Welcome back to Overkill Rewind. This is the show where we ask you, the faithful viewers, to come up with the top 5 heavy metal albums of a specific year. This year we're doing 1975. Personal memories of that year, I actually do have some personal memories of that year. It's probably the first year where I was really into music. I kind of knew what was going on. I was surprised when we went through these albums that a lot of these records I was buying as new releases. So we already knew the band from before. I would have been 12 years old. It is the year of Alice Cooper, Welcome to My Nightmare, the TV show. I remember back then, you know, what kids would do is stay up late at night, try to catch the midnight special or Don Kirshner's rock concert. And incidentally, it was also the first year of Saturday Night Live. So yeah, an interesting year in music, 1975. What was going on? Peter Gabriel leaves Genesis. Ritchie Blackmore leaves Deep Purple. Led Zeppelin sells out 3 nights at Madison Square Garden. Bruce Springsteen makes the cover of Newsweek and Time magazine on the same week. Sex Pistols played their first concert in 1975. Steve Harris formed Iron Maiden. I mean, there were a lot of lineups. Obviously, the first record doesn't come till 1980, but this is generally considered when Steve Harris forms Maiden. Ramones signed to Sire. They were already playing in 74, but they signed to Sire Records. So punk rock is burbling under. Way at the other end, Pink Floyd puts out Wish You Were Here, you know, the long-awaited, huge follow-up to Dark Side of the Moon. So yeah, lots going on in 1975. So yeah, let's see what you voted for. These are the top 5 heavy metal albums of 1975, as voted by you, the viewers. In our number 5 slot, we have Rush, Fly By Night. Rush, of course, big Canadian legend. You know, they're the inventors of progressive metal. This is their second album. It's the first album with Neil Peart. So they moved from being this sort of heavy Led Zeppelin-y Bad Company band when they had John Rutsey in the band, but now they're getting, you know, very note dense, and essentially this is the record, Fly By Night, where they are inventing the progressive metal sound. Interesting, this is the one band where there was some vote splitting going on because Caress of Steel comes out later in 1975, but Fly By Night really won this poll. So, you know, you have a great sound on this. You've got Terry Brown producing. Like I say, this is the record, pretty much ground zero for the invention of progressive metal. You got Neil Peart and his crazy lyrics. Heavy songs, you know, the Ayn Rand influenced anthem. You've got Bytor and the Snow Dog, which is a great prog epic. But you also got a few songs that are a little bit, you know, leaning back to the early days. Best I Can, In the End, Making Memories. It had a hit single on it, Fly By Night, kind of like a poppy progressive song, very strange song if you think about it. But it was a hit for them, and everything was kind of on the up and up for them. But then Caress of Steel hit later in the year, and then it was down again. So this was Rush building on the success of the earlier album. It was quite well received. They aren't a massive band at this point, but they're doing pretty good. They're out there touring. So yeah, Rush, Fly By Night. In terms of skull rating, I am going to give Rush, Fly By Night 3.5 skulls out of 5 skulls. So number 4 in our top 5 heavy metal albums of 1975, we have Led Zeppelin with Physical Graffiti. There's an album later on in this list that I'm going to say is my favorite album of all time, of all years, across all genres. Physical Graffiti actually toggles back and forth with that. So I love this album, one of my, like I say, 2 favorite albums of all time. Led Zeppelin, they're a massive band at this point. Of course, they're kind of like coming from the British blues boom. They're one of the inventors of heavy metal. They have 2 albums in 1979 with some kind of pretty pioneering heavy stuff on them. Led Zeppelin 3 is a little acoustic. Led Zeppelin 4, Houses of the Holy is 73. So they go 71, 73, this is 75. It's a double album. And what I love about this album is it's quite heavy. There's a lot of heaviness on it. There's a lot of variety on it. A lot of the songs are recorded over a bit of a time space, but you wouldn't know it from the sound. It has a very dry, kind of mid-rangey, but uniform sound. But some of the all-time Led Zeppelin classics are on this album. In My Time of Dying is my favorite Led Zeppelin song of all time. Big, heavy, a little bit based on a kind of an earlier blues idea, but it's basically a cool heavy metal song. Kashmir, of course, is amazing, and it's on this record. Probably Led Zeppelin's greatest accomplishment. Forget Stairway to Heaven. It's got Sick Again and Wonton Song and all these cool heavy songs on this record. It came in the the sleeve that you pull out. It's all die cut. It's got all the little windows cut out in the tenement in New York City there, Lower East Side. So you pull it out and you see all these cool pictures. So yeah, great double album. album, I mean, how was it received at the time? People were quite happy with this because they were not, you know, Led Zeppelin, a lot of people were jealous of Led Zeppelin the entire time, really. But Led Zeppelin 3 came out, and it was quite acoustic. 4 came out, very well received. Houses of the Holy, not so well received, because Led Zeppelin's kind of spreading out what they're doing. They thought it was a little bit of a phoned-in album, but here they come out with the double. You know, the corollary is like Clash London Calling, or Bruce Springsteen, The River, or Guns N' Roses, you know, Illusion 1, Illusion 2. So they're all of a sudden looking very ambitious again, because the songs are all super ambitious, and it's a double album. So there you go. I mean, I would give this 6 skulls out of 5 if I could, but I'm going to definitely give it 5 skulls out of 5 skulls. So number 3 on our top heavy metal albums of 1975, as voted by you, the viewers, is Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow. Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow. Okay, so what happens here? Who are these guys? So essentially what happens is Ritchie Blackmore and, you know, Ian Gillan and Roger Glover, they're all fighting like cats and dogs. You know, Deep Purple has this sort of tumultuous history, but then what happens is Glenn Hughes and David Coverdale come in, and then there's really sort of some musical differences. They wanted to be a little bit more soulful and funky with Deep Purple. Ritchie still sticks around for Burn and Stormbringer, but then he says, I'm out of here. The backup band, Elf, on the tour, has a singer you might have heard of called Ronnie James Dio, and he basically kind of takes Ronnie aside and the Elf band aside, and he says, I got this song I want to do as a single or something. Very strange story, but there's this song called Black Sheep of the Family by this old prog band called Quatermass. So basically they do this song, they decide they want to form a band, Ritchie heads off, you know, he basically takes all of Elf, absorbs them, except for the guitar player, and he forms this band called Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow, and they put out this debut album. So what do I think of the album? This is not my favorite album of all time of the Rainbow stuff. I mean, I love Rising, I love Down to Earth, Long Live Rock and Roll, the next ones. The first one is a little bit, the production's not great on it. It's got a little bit of that funky rock and rollness that you expect out of Elf, and interestingly, what you get out of Ian Gillan Band, early David Coverdale, Pace Ashton Lord, all these guys, you know, there's the Roger Glover solo albums and the John Lord solo albums. When Deep Purple kind of blows up and screws up and they're all gone, they all make these weird albums. And to me, I've always put this record a little bit in that camp. But it has all-time classics on it, like Man on the Silver Mountain, 16th Century Greensleeves. People love the ballad Catch the Rainbow. I don't like ballads. But it's got other songs like Snake Charmer, Temple of the King. Obviously, you, the viewers, liked it. You gave it a lot of votes. And it is pretty cool to get the first Rainbow album. This is basically Ronnie James Dio's coming out party, even though there's the records with Elf before that. But yeah, I find it a little bit patchy. I'm not crazy about the production on it. And so for that reason, I'm going to give Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow 3 skulls out of 5 skulls. So number 2 in our top heavy metal albums of 1975. You guys gave this a ton of votes. Pretty cool to see. Scorpions, In Trance. Okay, so what do we have here? You know, this is a record that at the time completely ignored. I mean, nobody knew who the Scorpions were. The Scorpions were not, I hate calling the Scorpions. I rally against that, so I'm just going to call them Scorpions because that's what they are. So basically, they don't get famous for another 2-3 records. I mean, they do Virgin Killer, Taken by Force. Things start looking up. 79, Animal Magnetism, and then they blow up in the 80s. But back in Trance, what we have here is their third record. The first one is really, you know, to use that term that they use, krautrock. The second one is probably 50% krautrock, and In Trance is like 30% krautrock. So it's still got that little bit of, you know, this weird arcane sound, this band coming from Germany. But they're starting to write some pretty cool, important heavy metal songs. This has Top of the Bill on it. It has Dark Lady on it. Amazing, you know, early, excellent heavy metal. That type of heavy metal you get out of a band who's not from, you know, the standard Western countries, Canada, US, Britain, where you go, wow, they are doing something really cool that must be coming from the fact that they come from an exotic country. Robot Man's really cool. But then the rest of it is just a little bit, it's ponderous, it's ballady, it's kind of doomy and dark, it's a little bit arcane. So, you know, as kids, we always thought that this was kind of a patchy album with our 3 awesome songs, just like the first one had Speedy's Coming on it. But then, see, Virgin Killer comes out and it's got like 5 really cool heavy songs on it. So Scorpions In Trance, you gave it a lot of votes. Great production by Dieter Dierks on here. You've got, you know, that great cool guitar team of Uli John Roth and Rudolf Schenker. You got the soaring cool Ronnie James Dio-esque vocals of Klaus Meine. So really cool band, a lot of talent. You could tell they were going places, but a very underground record still. I mean, it never did go gold in the States or anything like that. It's definitely going way back there, but it's pretty cool that you all voted for it. So skull rating, I think for Scorpions In Trance, I'm gonna go, boy, this could be bad, but I think I'll go 2.5 skulls out of 5 skulls. So we're up to number 1. What is the greatest heavy metal album of 1975? Voted on by you, our wise viewers. With the voting, there was a deluge of votes for this record. It was far and away the winner. It is Black Sabbath Sabotage. So, as I said earlier, this is actually my favorite record of all time across all genres. It's the one I say the most when asked that question. Now, I remember getting this as a kid as a new release. There was a little odd dynamic going on. I remember this specifically, but one of our friends who didn't buy a lot of records, we were kind of hesitant about this, and we didn't like the look of it, and we're thinking, is Black Sabbath going to go wimpy on us? We said, you go buy this one. And so he bought it, and so we're playing it at his house, and we're going, this is a little weird. You know, it's a little proggy, and you know, we were smart enough, even at 12, with our heavy metal antenna up, to realize that Symptom of the Universe, wow, that's great, but look, it goes mellow at the end. You know, Megalomania, there's a lot of mellow stuff in this one too. Thrill of It All, great verse riff, but that chorus is a little melodic, right? So I remember getting this record and thinking, it's a little ponderous, it's a little fancy, it's a little proggy, it's not Volume 4, it's not Master of Reality. That's how we felt about it at 12 years old. So for quite a while, it was thought to be just a little bit not great. But now I absolutely appreciate it. It's, you know, some people go so far as to call it a progressive metal album. But it's actually really pretty heavy through and through. It's got Hole in the Sky on it. It's got the Rit, as I mentioned, Symptom of the Universe. Everybody remembers how heavy that is, kind of a proto-thrash song they call it. Thrill of It All. Super Czar, whatever you want to say. You know, it's the orchestral one with all the weird instruments and choral vocals in it. Am I Going Insane? It's just a really cool, strange record. It's the one where you know, I often describe it as their white knuckle record, where they're just like working against all odds. There's all this stuff going on. They're being served legal papers. They're fighting with management. They're broke, and they're having to make a record during this time. There's a lot of drugs. They're kind of worn out. They've been touring incessantly and making records since 1970. So they're really under the gun, and it's almost like they're working at the absolute edge of their facilities. They're almost hysterical in making this record, so they make a very foreign, scary, progressive metal record. So Black Sabbath Sabotage, unbelievable album. Absolutely, I'm going to give this one 5 skulls out of 5 skulls. So, honorable mentions. What made the bubbling under list? What made 6 to 10? Alice Cooper, Welcome to My Nightmare. It's my favorite Alice Cooper album. It's the one where he goes solo away from the band. But as I say, in 1975, that movie came out. The crazy expensive tour came out. It's got some heavy songs on there, in Cold Ethel, Black Widow. Pretty cool record. I mean, I think it's the best one. I think it's the best sounding one. Another honorable mention, Ted Nugent. No surprise there. It's probably the most beloved Ted Nugent album. It's got Stranglehold on it, and Motor City Madhouse, and Stormtroopin'. It's just a really cool, solid, heavy album after years as a psych band, and almost like a progressive psych band. This is his first, you know, quote-unquote solo album. Derek St. Holmes is in there singing. Really cool record. UFO Force It. So this is when UFO is actually really kind of getting even heavier. Phenomenon wasn't that great. It's almost a little parallel to the Scorpions, really. They're moving into Force It. It's got heavy songs like Let It Roll and Mother Mary, This Kid. So this is a heavier, cooler record that all metalheads liked a lot more than Phenomenon and certainly the early, the Mick Bolton era kind of blues boom albums. So Force It, cool album. Michael Schenker's the guitarist. Phil Mogg, good lyrics. Great album. Hypnosis cover art. Good solid record for 1975. Nazareth, another honorable mention. Hair of the Dog, killer album. One of the cool things about this record, I remember at the time thinking the production is incredible. It is one of the best sounding albums of the 70s, certainly 1975. And one of the interesting things is, Roger Glover is credited with making Nazareth a pretty big band in his work through the likes of Razzmanazz and Loud and Proud. He actually doesn't produce this one. The guitarist produces it, Manny Charlton. So it's a self-produced album, and it's just, the fidelity is incredible. The power, the might, the treble, the bass. And it's got a classic song in Hair of the Dog, with the you're messing with the son of a bitch chorus, big hit, classic rock hit. Changing Times, Miss Misery, Beggar's Day. That spooky album cover with the weird apocalyptic wolves on it. So good, solid Nazareth album for 1975. Our last honorable mention is Kiss, Dressed to Kill. Kiss was a bit of a funny situation because we don't allow live albums in this thing. Kiss Alive obviously got a lot of votes when people kind of forgot that because it is the biggest, most famous Kiss album. But Dressed to Kill also came out in 1975, so it got a fair number of votes. It's a pretty well-liked album. I remember getting it as a kid and thinking it was a little bit poppy compared to Hotter Than Hell and even the first one. It doesn't have that weird extreme production sound. It's a little bit kind of pert and bouncy. But the songs are generally pretty hard rocking on it. It's got Rock and Roll All Night on it was the big hit. So yeah, this is Kiss's third album. They're the studio album before they make it big. They're nobody at the time. How well received was it at the time? I mean, those of us in the underground, kind of knew about Kiss and knew they were bubbling under and getting big, but this is well before they broke. So there you go. Those are the honorable mentions. So yeah, this is the part where I get to spout off and say, hey, what was missed? You guys did an awesome job in this. I don't think really anything super important was missed. I mean, I would almost agree with all 10 of the top 10. The number one album that I thought should have got more votes is Aerosmith, Toys in the Attic. Huge album. It did well at the time. Everybody knew it. It had massive hits in Walk This Way. Well, maybe not massive in 1975, but Walk This Way and Sweet Emotion. Good varied album. Adam's Apple's on it. No More, No More. Round and Round. A lot of cool, heavy songs on this. Good production. So I thought Aerosmith, Toys in the Attic would get more votes. Thin Lizzy Fighting got a few votes. I don't really agree that it should have been much higher either. It's not one of the great Thin Lizzy albums. Queen Night at the Opera, I thought that would have got more votes given how big Queen is right now with the movie. But it's not that heavy an album really. Bohemian Rhapsody's got some heavy stuff. Sweet Lady, Death on Two Legs, Prophet Song. So it's got some heaviness going there, but it's just a really cool record that I personally think is a genius record that could have done better. I saw an album called Armageddon got some votes. I remember getting that not in 1975. I wasn't tuned in enough to get Armageddon in 75, but later it was just this weird one-off band that was kind of a progressive metal band, kind of a cool, dark album. Check it out if you get a chance. It came out on A&M Records. So there you go. There's our honorable mentions. Tell us what you think. Hope you agree with this list. I thought it was a pretty cool list. So that's it for Overkill Rewind 1975. Until next time, see you then.